Leading our bulletin tonight, Mabuza Attorneys has parted ways with former President Jacob Zuma. The legally and politically embattled former president has been dumped by his legal team. Well, this is just 3 weeks before the start of his corruption trial at the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Mabuza Attorneys filed a notice of withdrawal with the court this morning. It comes at a time when the former president recently lost the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment on the state paying for his legal bill. Well, the latest development may result in the former president's day in court being moved, as he now has to find new attorneys who need to be briefed about the arms deal case in which Thales International is a co-accused. All right, let's go straight now to our News 24 legal journalist, Karyn Maughan. Let's start with you, Karyn, this evening. A very good evening to you. So what, in effect, does this mean, Karyn? I mean, what does it mean if the attorneys of the record withdraw from a case? Does this mean that the former president's entire team has withdrawn?
Yes, basically what happens is that the attorneys are on record and they then brief the counsel to appear for the client. As a consequence, when the attorneys withdraw, it usually involves the withdrawal of counsel unless they're briefed by other attorneys. My understanding, however, is that this withdrawal follows a letter that was sent by Mabuza Attorneys to the former president last week, in which certain issues were raised. I have not personally seen the letter, but I am told that it involved some kind of ethical issue that the counsel in the case were also concerned about. And as a consequence, as we speak this evening, Jacob Zuma at this point does not have legal representation for his corruption case.
Karyn, what are the implications for the trial of the former president then?
Well, basically, the former president will have to find a new attorney and brief counsel to represent him. Griselda, this is a very complex case. It dates back well over a decade into the late 1990s. The former president's relationship with his former financial advisor, Shabir Sheikh, allegations that he sought a 500,000 rand a year bribe from Thales to block any potential arms deal inquiry. So there's a lot of forensic evidence, a lot of financial evidence, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pages of documentation. So very likely that if and when new attorneys and counsel are brought on record for this case, they will almost as a certainty ask for a postponement of the case so that they can familiarize themselves with the evidence.
So we know that the SCA, Karyn, had made a crucial ruling on the former president's entitlement to state funding of his legal costs last month. Will that have an impact on his case going forward?
Absolutely, Griselda. I mean, the court has said that he is not entitled to state funding. It's also ordered that he needs to pay back what is currently estimated at 25 million rand in taxpayers' money already spent on his legal fees. So given that situation, it is very likely that anyone brought on board to represent him will need to do so under the proviso that they will not be paid. We know that he recently said, there was a recording of him at an NEC meeting saying that his attorneys or his lawyers were acting pro bono. So we know that up until this point, Muzi Sikhakhane, the advocates, as we understand, according to the former president, have not been paid. So, in order to ask an experienced counsel, lawyers, etc., to represent him in the context of a very complicated and possibly long-running case without any prospect of remuneration is going to potentially be quite a significant hurdle for the former president.
Well, Karyn, of course, this case has dragged on for so much time now, and I guess there'll be lots of commentary that will be made in the legal space and also in terms of, I could say, the court of public opinion. I mean, what does this in effect say? Of course, if the legal team decides it wants to leave the former president, Jacob Zuma, they have the right to do so. But for a case that has dragged on for so long, where so many questions still need answers, how does this fare, I guess, from that perspective?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, any normal person, if they're charged with an offense, will need to go on trial, regardless of whether or not they have access to funds. So if you or I were charged with any form of offence, yes, we are indeed entitled to legal representation, and we are entitled to legal representation if we can't afford it. But, you know, the issue is that up until, I think around 2018, which is when the High Court ruled, the former president had effectively untrammeled legal funding, and he was able to litigate, as the High Court put it, on an almost luxurious scale to challenge all aspects of the NPA's case against him, with the end result that, all the evidence as it currently, will be led, stands. It's all admissible because he's challenged it, and the court have found that it is indeed admissible. So, he is in somewhat of a difficult position, but part of it is unfortunately of his own creation. Mounting multiple legal challenges at the taxpayer's expense with no guarantee that he would pay it. The court has taken a very strong view on that. It is an unfortunate consequence of the kind of untrammeled power that he previously had. The former president has stated, I think in a press statement, his foundation last year in September, saying that, he was very eager to go on trial. He wanted to clear his name. He wanted to lead, you and I both remember that statement. So one would hope that in those circumstances, he makes every effort to try and, deal with the obviously very problematic hand that he has himself participated in creating for himself, but that there is a kind of firm commitment to, despite this latest development, ensuring this trial does go ahead timeously.
News 24 senior legal journalist Karyn Maughan, thank you very much for your time on the programme this evening. In other news,